Hey there, knowledge seekers. Welcome back to the channel where we transform life-changing books into bite-sized wisdom you can apply today. I'm excited to dive into one of my absolute favorite productivity books with you. Deep Work by Cal Newport. Part 1. Introduction. Ever feel like you're constantly busy but not really accomplishing anything meaningful? You check emails, scroll through social media, attend meetings, respond to messages, and at the end of the day, you wonder where all your time went. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. We're living in an age of constant distraction, where our attention is constantly being pulled in different directions. This is exactly why Cal Newport's concept of deep work is so revolutionary. In a world that celebrates busyness over productivity, Newport challenges us to re-examine how we work and focus on what truly matters. So what exactly is deep work? Newport defines it as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. In other words, it's about getting into that flow state where you're fully immersed in challenging, meaningful work, the kind that actually moves the needle in your career and life. Today, I'll break down the core concepts of deep work, explain why it's becoming increasingly rare yet valuable in our modern economy, and share practical strategies you can implement immediately to reclaim your focus and accomplish truly meaningful work. Let's transform the way you work and think about productivity. Ready? Let's dive in. Part 2. The Deep Work Hypothesis. Let's start with Newport's central argument, what he calls the deep work hypothesis. In today's knowledge economy, two core abilities determine whether you'll thrive or get left behind. First, the ability to quickly master hard things. Second, the ability to produce at an elite level in terms of both quality and speed. And guess what? Both of these abilities depend on your capacity for deep work. Think about it. Whether you're learning complex programming languages, writing a compelling business proposal, or creating innovative solutions to problems, you need focused, uninterrupted time to do your best work. Yet here's the paradox. At the exact moment when deep work is becoming more valuable, it's also becoming increasingly rare. Our workplaces have evolved into constant connectivity hubs with open floor plans, instant messaging, and the expectation of immediate responses. We've created an environment that actively fights against deep concentration. Newport argues that this creates a massive opportunity. If you can cultivate the skill of deep work while everyone else is distracted, you'll have an enormous competitive advantage. It's like having a superpower in a world that's forgotten how to focus. Let me share a personal example. When I first read this book, I realized I was constantly switching between tasks, checking my phone, responding to emails, and trying to do meaningful work simultaneously. My productivity was suffering. After implementing Newport's strategies, I started setting aside blocks of time for focused work, and the difference was astounding. Projects that used to take weeks were completed in days, and the quality of my work improved dramatically. This isn't just about productivity. It's about finding meaning and satisfaction in your work. Newport argues that deep work isn't just more productive, it's more fulfilling. There's a special satisfaction that comes from immersing yourself completely in a challenging task and producing something valuable. Part 3. The enemy, shallow work. Now, let's talk about the opposite of deep work, what Newport calls shallow work. These are non-cognitively demanding, logistical-style tasks, often performed while distracted. Think checking emails, attending unnecessary meetings, filling out paperwork, and scrolling through social media. Shallow work is easily replicated, doesn't create much new value, doesn't improve your skills in meaningful ways. Here's the shocking truth. Most of us spend 80% or more of our workday engaged in shallow work. We feel busy, but we're not making progress on what truly matters. The corporate world has developed what Newport calls a culture of connectivity, where constant communication has become more important than actual productivity. We've convinced ourselves that responding quickly to emails is more important than producing quality work. We've confused activity with productivity. Let me give you a reality check. How many times have you checked your phone since you started watching this video? How many notifications have pulled at your attention? Each of these tiny interruptions has a cost that's much higher than we realize. Research shows that even brief mental blocks created by shifting your attention from one task to another can cost as much as 40% of your productive time. Even worse, studies reveal that once interrupted, it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully return to your task. Think about that. A 30-second glance at your phone can effectively cost you nearly half an hour of deep focus. Multiply that by the dozens of times we check our devices daily, and it's no wonder we struggle to accomplish meaningful work. But don't worry, awareness is the first step toward change. In the following sections, I'll share Newport's practical strategies for reclaiming your attention and maximizing your deep work capacity. The good news is that deep focus is a skill you can develop with practice. Part 4. The 4 Deep Work Philosophies. One of the most practical aspects of Newport's book is that he recognizes there's no one-size-fits-all approach to deep work. Instead, he outlines 4 different philosophical approaches you can adopt based on your personality and circumstances. The first is the monastic philosophy. This is the most extreme approach, where you eliminate or radically minimize shallow obligations. Think of writers who retreat to cabins in the woods, or scientists who disconnect completely to focus on breakthrough research. People like Carl Jung and Bill Gates have used this approach, taking extended periods of isolation to produce their most important work. Next is the bimodal philosophy. This approach involves dividing your time into distinct periods of deep work and shallow work. You might dedicate certain days of the week or certain weeks of the year exclusively to deep work projects, while handling shallow tasks during the remaining time. This works well for academics who teach during the semester but research intensively during breaks. The third approach is the rhythmic philosophy, which is probably the most accessible for most people. It involves developing a regular habit of deep work by scheduling consistent blocks of time each day. You might block off the first 3 hours of every workday for deep work before switching to shallow tasks. This philosophy relies on the power of habit to make deep work a consistent part of your routine. Finally, there's the journalistic philosophy, where you fit deep work wherever you can into your schedule. This is the most flexible approach but also the most difficult to maintain. It requires you to be able to quickly switch into a state of deep focus whenever you have an unexpected pocket of time. Experienced journalists who can write profound pieces on tight deadlines excel with this approach. Which philosophy resonates with you? Personally, I've found the rhythmic approach most sustainable in my own life. Blocking off the first 3 hours of each morning for deep work has transformed my productivity. But the beauty of Newport's framework is that you can choose the approach that best fits your life circumstances and personality. Part 5. Practical Rules for Deep Work. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty, Newport's practical rules for implementing deep work in your life. These are actionable strategies you can start using today. Rule number 1. Work deeply. Begin by choosing your deep work philosophy from the 4 we just discussed. Then, create rituals around your deep work sessions. Decide where you'll work and for how long. Set clear rules for what's allowed during these sessions. Hint, not social media. And ensure you have the support you need, whether that's coffee, snacks, or reference materials. Newport introduces a powerful concept called the grand gesture, a dramatic change to your normal environment that signals the importance of the task at hand. Author J.K. Rowling famously checked into a luxury hotel to finish writing the Harry Potter series, away from distractions. You don't need to be that extreme. Even moving to a library or coffee shop can serve as a smaller grand gesture. Rule number 2, embrace boredom. In our hyper-connected world, we've lost the ability to be bored. The moment we have downtime, we reach for our phones. Newport argues that this constant stimulation weakens our attention muscles. Just like physical fitness, mental focus requires training. Try this. Schedule specific times for internet use and avoid it completely outside those times. When you feel that urge to check social media, acknowledge it, but don't act on it. This practice strengthens your ability to resist distraction and focus deeply when needed. Another technique is productive meditation. Using physical activities like walking, jogging, or showering to think deeply about a specific professional problem. Without digital distractions, your mind can explore complex ideas more thoroughly. These practices might feel uncomfortable at first. That's normal. Your brain is being retrained to focus. The discomfort is a sign that you're building a valuable skill that few others have in our distracted world. Part 6. More practical rules. Let's continue with Newport's practical rules for cultivating deep work. Rule number 3. Quit social media. Now, before you panic, Newport isn't necessarily saying to abandon all social platforms forever. Rather, he suggests adopting what he calls the craftsman approach to tool selection. This means evaluating each tool, including social media platforms, based on its positive contributions to your core goals versus its negative impacts on your ability to focus. Ask yourself, does this specific platform significantly support something I deeply value? Does it outweigh the potential harm to my attention? Many of us use social media by default without ever questioning its actual value in our lives. Newport recommends a 30-day social media detox. Cut out all optional social media for a month. Then at the end, ask yourself, would my life have been notably better if I had been able to use this service? And did people care that I wasn't using this service? The answers might surprise you. Rule number 4. Drain the shallows. The final rule focuses on minimizing shallow work to make room for what's deep and meaningful. Newport suggests several strategies. Schedule every minute of your day. This doesn't mean planning a rigid, inflexible schedule. Rather, it's about intentionality. Dividing your day into blocks and assigning activities to each block. When unexpected tasks arise, as they always do, simply revise your schedule. The goal isn't perfect adherence, but conscious choices about how you spend your time. Quantify the depth of each activity. Ask, how long would it take to train a recent college graduate with no specialized training to complete this task? The longer the training time, the deeper the work. Set a strict ending time for your workday, what Newport calls a shutdown ritual. This might sound counterintuitive, but having firm boundaries between work and leisure actually improves your deep work capacity. Without proper rest and recovery, your brain can't maintain intensive focus. Part 7. The science behind deep work. Let's take a moment to understand the science that supports Newport's arguments about deep work and distraction. Our brains aren't designed for multitasking. When we think we're multitasking, we're actually just switching rapidly between tasks, and this switching has a significant cognitive cost. Neuroscientists call this attention residue. When you switch from task A to task B, your attention doesn't immediately follow. A residue of your attention remains stuck thinking about task A, reducing your performance on task B. This explains why checking email every few minutes is so harmful to productivity. Each check creates attention residue that diminishes your cognitive performance. By contrast, when you work deeply on a single task for an extended period, you eliminate this attention residue and achieve much higher quality thinking. There's also fascinating research on the state of flow, that feeling of being completely absorbed in a challenging but manageable task. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi found that people report their highest levels of happiness when in this state. Deep work facilitates flow, which not only makes you more productive but also more fulfilled. Another interesting finding is about willpower. Research shows that willpower is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day, what psychologists call ego depletion. This is why Newport emphasizes creating routines and habits around deep work. When deep focus becomes habitual, it requires less willpower to maintain. The prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for focused thinking, is energy intensive and tires easily. This is why deep work typically can't be sustained for more than 4 hours per day. Beyond that, the quality of your thinking significantly declines. Newport himself aims for 3 to 4 hours of deep work daily, recognizing that the rest of the day will necessarily involve shallower activities. Understanding these biological constraints helps us work with our brains rather than against them, creating sustainable deep work practices that acknowledge our cognitive limitations. Part 8. Common Objections. Now let's address some common objections people have when considering Newport's deep work philosophy. But my job requires me to be constantly available. This is probably the most common pushback. Many knowledge workers feel that their roles demand constant connectivity. Newport argues that this is rarely true to the extent we believe it is. Most emails don't require immediate responses. Most meetings could be eliminated or shortened. Most chat messages could wait. The key is to gradually shift expectations rather than making a dramatic overnight change. Start by carving out small blocks of deep work time and communicating your availability to colleagues. You might say, I'll be focusing on Project X from 9:11 a.m. each day, but I'll respond to all messages by noon. Over time, you can expand these blocks as people adjust to your new work rhythm. What about collaboration? Isn't isolation bad for teamwork? Deep work doesn't mean becoming a hermit. Newport distinguishes between collaboration and constant connectivity. The most effective collaborations often involve periods of intense interaction, followed by periods of focused individual work. Think of a successful musical group. They don't practice in the same room 24/7, but come together after mastering their individual parts. I need to be active on social media for my career, business. For some professionals, social media presence is genuinely important. But Newport would challenge you to be strategic rather than defaulting to constant engagement. Schedule specific times for social media use, batch your posts using scheduling tools, and be intentional about which platforms truly serve your goals. The question isn't whether to use these tools at all, but how to use them in a way that preserves your capacity for deep work. I can't possibly disconnect. I have too many responsibilities. This objection often comes from people with demanding family and work obligations. The answer here isn't necessarily working more hours, but making the hours you do work more effective through deep focus. Even finding 60-90 minutes of deep work time each day can dramatically increase your output. Part 9. Real-world success stories. Let's look at some inspiring examples of how deep work has transformed the productivity and success of real people. Take J.K. Rowling, who wrote much of the Harry Potter series in focused, distraction-free environments. When facing deadlines for the later books, she checked into luxury hotels, a grand gesture that created the perfect conditions for deep work, away from the distractions of home life. Or consider Bill Gates, known for his think weeks. Twice a year, Gates would retreat to a secluded cabin for a week of reading, thinking, and strategizing without interruptions. Many of Microsoft's major strategic shifts originated during these deep work sessions. Cal Newport himself is a compelling example. As a computer science professor at Georgetown University, he's published numerous peer-reviewed papers and written several successful books, all while rarely working past 5:30 p.m. and maintaining a strict no-work policy on weekends. His secret? Rigorous deep work sessions during his designated work hours. What about people with more conventional jobs? Newport shares the story of a consultant who negotiated with his firm to reduce email checking to twice per day, explaining to clients that this made him more responsive to their important needs rather than less. His productivity soared, and clients appreciated his more thoughtful responses when he did engage. Another example is a software developer who blocked out 3 90-minute deep work sessions each day using noise-canceling headphones and a do not disturb sign. She completed projects in half the expected time, quickly earning a reputation as one of the most valuable contributors on her team. The common thread in these success stories is not working longer hours, but working smarter by protecting time for focused, distraction-free, deep work. These individuals didn't just accept the constant connectivity of modern work culture, they deliberately designed their work habits to prioritize depth over shallowness. Part 10. Conclusion. Let's bring everything together and talk about how you can start implementing deep work in your own life, starting today. First, remember that deep work is a skill, not a personality trait. Like any skill, it improves with practice. Don't be discouraged if your mind wanders during your first attempts at focused work. Your attention muscle will strengthen over time. Start small. Even 30-60 minutes of daily deep work can make a remarkable difference in your productivity. Schedule this time on your calendar and protect it fiercely as you would an important meeting. Choose an environment that works for you. Some people need complete silence, while others work best with background noise. Experiment to find your optimal deep work conditions. Be patient with yourself and others as you transition to this new way of working. It takes time to shift expectations, both your own and those of the people around you. But the results are worth it. Higher quality work, more creativity, greater satisfaction, and ultimately a more meaningful professional life. In a world increasingly dominated by distraction, the ability to focus deeply is becoming a rare and valuable skill. As Newport puts it, deep work is not some nostalgic affectation of writers and early 20th century philosophers. It's instead a skill that has great value today. By cultivating this skill, you're not just optimizing your productivity, you're reclaiming your attention and engaging more fully with your work and life. And in my experience, that's truly transformative. If you found value in this breakdown of deep work, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more life-changing book summaries delivered every week. Drop a comment below sharing which deep work strategy you're most excited to try or what book you'd like me to cover next. Thank you for your attention, the most valuable currency in today's economy. Until next time, stay focused and go deep.